Okay, in the previous week, we looked at Java, the programming language. We realized it has certain components. It works like this. This is where our Java program will be. It runs inside a JVM, and the JVM requires some libraries. And together we call it a Java runtime environment. And programmers require another section, development tools, and that works inside the JDK. And we also went through the reserved keywords. These are the reserved keywords, everything in Java. Then we looked at something called the boilerplate, the absolute minimum template. And so here, basically, we have something called class, and then we have a method called main. These are the two very important things for any basic Java program. We also looked at a code block. Code block has a curly bracket starting and ending. We looked at documentation. Now, let me show you here. So this is the documentation again, right? This part. And the curly brackets start from here and ending here. And these are pairs. Now, this one is closing. This one is starting here, right? So that's how you have blocks of code. We also looked at how to have comments where we can come back later, called the to-do action items. We also realize there are certain ways where we can generate code automatically using our IDE, NetBeans. Then we talked about data types in Java. There is primitive and non-primitive. We started with the primitive data types. We looked at Boolean and numeric, then characters and integers, right? Integers again broken down into integer, that is a whole number, and also floating point numbers, numbers with decimal places. So at the bottom, you can see there is Boolean, character, byte, short, int, long, and then float and double. Under non-primitive, there are a few. We use, I think, string, but not the others. So as we require, I will introduce you to those data types. Talking about the number type, we looked at the minimum maximum values, and we also realized Java has a default value for these data types, which is actually very good. You will see why. We also spoke about how to output something to the screen. So there are three methods: print, println, and printf. Println is the most famous one. Then we looked at how to get user input. Now for that, we use something called a scanner class. So this is the format. You need at least two lines. You need this line to create an object of the scanner class. In my case, I use something called input. We will talk about objects and classes later. Just for now, in order to get some data, input from the user, imagine we use the scanner class. And then if you need a number, you need to call this one called the next int. Int stand for integer. And the word input here is actually coming from input here. This is called the name of the object. It can be anything. It can be I, it can be IN, it can be your name, whatever. So it's just an object name. I put input because we are getting input. And then we talked about variables. So there are different kinds of variables: string variable, integers, float, character, and booleans. How to create a variable? Well, you have to first specify the type of the variable, then the name of the variable, and then optionally a value. Now, value is optional. You can create a variable without giving a default value also. Here's a sample. So we have created a variable called age, has a value of 20, and it is of integer type. And for you to display the variable to the screen, you use system out println and then the name of the variable. So we wrote this sample code the other day to see how these variables look on the screen. We also spoke about operators. If you remember, we sort of broke it down into multiple sections. So there is arithmetic operations, unary, assignment, relational, logical, ternary, bitwise, and also shift. There are so many different ways we can play with these variables, right? We also started writing some code using what we learn here. So let me switch to NetBeans now. So these are the code that we wrote the other day. So data types, operators, these are the different operators we tried. Then we also tried this one, checking out the number range. So we were trying to see whether a certain number that is given is within a range. So test whether the given number is between 10 and 20 inclusive. So that's what we did here. Now, I gave you some exercises last week. So maybe I thought I'll go through some of them together with you so that we will understand how Java works. Remember, in programming or coding, when you're learning coding or programming, the only way to learn coding is to code. That is the only way. You will learn some theories, but to master that, you have to code. That is the only way to understand why these things work the way it is. All right. So let me start with a new project. So it's going to be Java with Maven, next Java application. So I'm going to call it, oh boy. And this is going to be week 04A. Let's try to display maybe a pattern manually, and then we will see how we can generate it with a loop when we learn loops later. Okay. Let's call it Christmas tree. Here we go. So what I want to design is, or rather output is just a Christmas tree. So it'll be very manual. I'll show you what I want on the screen. So basically I want this, screen like this. Now to do this, I'm like I said, this will be a very manual operation, right? I need to first find out how many spaces are required here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5th is the star, right? So let me try that here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a star, right? Oops. Now I'm gonna take a few copies of this. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 3 spaces, right? 1, 2, 3, and then I need 3 stars. Okay, so here we need 2 spaces, 1, 2, and then we need 4 stars. No, 5 stars, right? And then here we need 1 space and 2 more stars. And here we need 2 stars like that. And here we need again 1, 2, 3, 4 and the star, right? I'm going to delete this because this is just a way to get my placing done. So if I run this, I should see a Christmas tree. There it is, right? The Christmas tree is there. Okay. So this is just a very basic example to show a pattern using just the println line. Later, we will write a code to automatically create a tree or a pyramid or an angle or anything by just giving a number, right? This is the manual way of doing this. Now, let me create another project. I'm going to call that W04B. From the list I gave you, calculating the circumference of a circle, right? So, circumference. I don't need a package, but I'm going to put it anyways. Finish. So in here, okay, let's say calculate the circumference of a circle. Circumference is the it's not the area, it is the distance from one point around the circle. Yeah. How do you calculate that circumference? It is 2 into 5 into radius, right? So we can say here C equals 2 into 5 into radius. Now, where is the value 5? Well, I can get it manually. I can type that manually, or I can use a library. Remember, Java has a very rich library which I can use. So first, I'm going to do it manually and then see whether I can get it from the library. Okay. So first, I'm going to do everything manually. Okay. So I'm going to say int. I need a C int. I need the radius also int. So let's say R equals 10, radius being 10. Okay. I also need 5. So to that, I'll use float 5. Okay. I can also actually get a value for pi. Let me get the basic one. Maybe I can put it here, 3.14. Yeah, something like that. Why is it? Oh. So I put a F to say that this is a floating point number. So technically C equals 2 into pi into radius, right? I have a problem here because it's in red. It says incompatible type, which means my integer C is not suitable for this project. So I would actually have a float for my circumference as well. Okay, all good. So all I need to do now is to have system out, println, and display the value there. We can say C equals, and the value of C, no, not actually C, I can say radius equals R, right? On the same line, I wish to have the C, so let's call it circumference equals plus C. Let's run this and see what the value is. Okay, so I'm getting a value of calculate the circumference of the circle, and I guess radius is 10, circumference is 62.80003. Actually, I could also control the number of decimal places here as well, but I'm going to leave it as it is. I'm going to change this now into a couple of different ways. So probably I can make a updated version of the project, right? So I'm going to keep it a very simple way of calculating the circumference, but I can create another project, in fact, and I'm going to then use the library. I'm also going to ask the user to enter a value. So two things I'm going to do. So it's going to be 04C, we can say V2. Um, oh, let's open here. Right, I'm going to copy paste the code as it is, and then I will start changing that. So here I can say with user input. I will also require the scanner object, if you remember. So it goes like this: scanner in equals new scanner system.in. That's how I did it. And here I have to import this. It says add import Java util scanner. When I do that, it gets here imported, which is very good. So here I am going to use the math library dot. See, when I type math and dot, I am getting it. And here I get the one I want to. Again, I have a red color problem. So I'm going to press Alt and enter. It says cast math to float. Okay, that is because the C is float. Oh, okay. Right. Now for this to work, I think I should do a double here. Right. Because it has a high resolution thing here. Okay. So I'm using the math libraries pi method, number one. And number two, the R is 10. I need to ask the user what the radius is. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say system.out.println. Actually, ln I'm removing because I'm going to get it from the same line. What is the radius? And then if you remember, it was in dot next int. There you go. So, oh, I need to say r equals next int. Yeah. So now I am, oh, this also I don't need. I have the, oh, actually, hold on. I could do this. I could do this, or maybe not. Um, I don't need to have another variable because it's, I think it's a waste. So I'm going to have it here. All right, all good. Let's run this and see whether I get the same value. But this time I have to enter a value, right? Because it's waiting for a value to come. So let's try 10. I should get the same value as before. Oh, I have a very high precision number. You see, in the previous code, we got 8000 something. But now here we are getting 62831 something, right? That is because we are getting high precision number from the math library. Now in the earlier code, if you remember, I put only 3.14, whereas here we get a very large number. In fact, if you want to see the value of the pi, we can have it here as well. Right, let's see what the value of the pi is. There, you see, it's a very large number, high precision number compared to what we have here, right? So I did the same problem in two different ways. First method, yes, actually. The first method is where I have manually given the pi and the radius. In the second method, I'm taking the pi from the library and the radius is coming from the user as a user input. And we get a high precision number as the output. So that is our second example. Now, the third example was asking the user for two numbers and then showing which one is the largest, right? If you remember, we also looked at positive, negative numbers, whether the or age calculation, whether the child is, whether the person is a child or an adult. We can even look at odd even numbers. Plus, if you move forward, you can also look at something like a grading also. Okay. There are other things if you want to really look at the algorithm like leap year detection, for example. All that can be done by using the stuff that we learned so far. So I'll go with a very simple logic first. Let's try to compare two numbers to find out which one is largest. Okay, so I will ask two numbers from the user and then compare them and then say which one is the largest. Okay, we'll say what we are going to do. Comparing the oh, let's say finding the largest number from two inputs. Right. So then we say, please enter number one. What is your first number? Here I'm going to remove this. By the way, I'll also need some variables. So I need the scan object because I am going to get user input. So just like before, I'm going to say scanner system.in. I will need two variables. So I'm going to call it int n1 and n2. This, if you remember, I have to import the scanner. I don't need this comment. Okay, so what is your first number? I need to get it to n1, first number, right? So that'll be in dot next int, right? And then I can copy these two lines and paste it to get my second number, isn't it? Number, and this will be n2. Okay, so I got two numbers in from the user. So now I need to compare it. How do I compare it? I use the if statement like this. And if also has an else like this. So if the statement is correct or true, I go to this section, this code block. If the statement is false, I go to this code block. So what am I comparing? Whether n1 is larger than n2. So if n1 is larger than n2, I come here. So I'm going to say println. I'll say okay, n1 plus is largest. And here I'm going to say n2 is the largest. I hope you understand the logic, right? So I'm comparing n1 and n2, and if it is larger, and if n1 is larger, I'm showing this. If n2 is largest, I'm showing this. So let's run this and see what happens. I have to enter two numbers. So I'm going to enter number 20 and number 10. There it says 20 is the largest. If I run again, and I enter number 5 and number 6, I get 6 is the largest. So either way, whether you enter a large number first and small number later, or small number first and large number later, either way, it can detect which one is the largest and it'll show us the answer. Okay, that's another example we do. So with this knowledge, what can we do? We can also figure out positive, negative numbers. How do we figure out, how do we know whether the number is positive or negative? Anybody? How do you know whether the number is positive or negative? Right. Siluni has the answer. If the number is more than 0, well, then it is positive. If it is less than 0, it is negative. What about if the number is 0? Then what do we do? Here again, I'm going to use the scan object because I'm going to get a number from the user, right? I need to input that, or rather import that. So okay, I need some variables. So I'm going to say int n, and here I will I need to give a message saying please enter a number. So system.out.println, please enter a number. I'm removing ln because I want to get the number in front of this message. PLEASC. Okay. And then I'm going to say n equals in dot next int. Yeah. Here we go. Now all we need to do now is to use a if statement, isn't it? See, I generally, when I type a if, I write the block first so that I won't make a mistake. Okay. So all I'm going to do now is to see whether if n is bigger than 0. If so, the number is positive. The number is negative. That's it. But we do have a problem. What if the number is 0? We don't have a condition to check that. So let's enter minus 100. It says the number is negative, correct? Let's enter a positive number. 500. The number is positive. Like I said, we do have a problem. What if the number is 0? So I need another condition there, because if the number is 0, there is no point going further, isn't it? So let's first detect it, and then we'll come back to this. If the number is 0, remember I put 2 equal sign. There's a reason for it, because we are checking the equality. System out dot println, the number is 0, right? And let's try entering 0 now. 0, enter. Oh, it says the number is 0, but again it says the number is negative. Now, there is no negativeness here, isn't it? The program must stop here. How do we do that? So here we do something called the system exit, right? Generally put a 0 in here. And what happens here is the program stops, or program exits here. Now let's try. I'm going to press 0 now and enter. There we go. It says number is 0. Fantastic. It doesn't go and say this is negative, because we want to stop the program when we detect the number is 0. Okay, good. How about odd even numbers? How about calculating age maybe? How about detecting whether they are a child or an adult? Let's try one more. I'll show you the odd even, and I invite you to try out the other exercises. Let me start a new project. Let's call it odd even, right? In fact, I'm going to copy this whole thing, and actually this much. Odd even detector. That's what you're doing. And as before, we need to do this. And please enter a number. Okay. So now what we're trying to do here is we use a special operator, right? If you remember the operators we talked about, we use the operator with the symbol of percentage sign. That is called the modulo operator. And when you use the modulo 2, when you divide the number by 2 and see whether it has any balance, we can detect whether the number is odd or even. So I can use an if statement for that. Else here. So if n mod 2, right? Oh, we have a problem here. Incompatible type. Int cannot be converted to Boolean. Okay, we have a little issue here. So we are trying to look at dividing the number by 2 and trying to figure out whether there is any balance. And if the balance is there, we will say it is even. If the balance is not there, it is going to be odd. But we have a problem of doing that inside the if, because the if statement works only with the Boolean value. So right now, we are not getting a Boolean value. We are getting a number coming out. So what I'm going to do here is I will have another number. Let's call it x. Okay. So here I'm going to say x equals n mod 2. All right. So if I can do this, if x is not equal to 0, something like that. If it is not 0, that means it's even number. Now, this is another way to detect 0 or not 0, right? This is not 0. So system out dot println. We can say n is an even number. Odd number. All right, let's see whether it works. So I know number 2 is an even number. So I'm going to type number 2 and see what happens. Oh, it's wrong. If it is not equal to 0, okay, hold on. If I change this, it'll right. Okay. Let's see that. Because if there is no balance, it is 0, isn't it? So then it is even. There you go. There you go. Okay. Let's try number 3. Number 3 is odd. Yes, it is working. Okay. So I've been doing very simple exercises with Java. Now, like I said, this is the way to learn coding. So you have to keep coding and in order to learn programming. Let's try another one where we can ask a question from the user and see whether the person whether we can calculate his age. And then we can also find out whether the person is an adult or a child. Okay, so here we go. You can say calc age. Right. So I'm going to ask the year of birth, and from there I'm going to calculate the age. So I need the scan object, of course, because I'm going to get the user input. Right. Yeah, of course, I have to import. Then I need some variables. By the way, year of birth and age. Oh, I should have given some information here in this block. Calculate age with given year of birth value. That's the idea, right? So we need to ask the year of birth. What is your year of birth? Again, remember, I'm reviewing LN. Then I need, I need year of birth equals in dot next int. And I need to calculate the age. Age equals 2023 minus year of birth. And then I can give a message, system out println you are age years old. That's it. Let's run this. Right, now let's give a known value. Let's say 2000. We know the answer should be 23. So let's give 2000. Yes, it is correct. You are 23 years old. Right, you are 43 years old. Excellent. So yeah, the code is working. How about adding a little more twist to this, say, to see whether this person is an adult or a child. Now in Sri Lanka, it's the age 18, where we say less than 18 is child, 18 or above is adult. So we don't need to ask any other question. We can just put a if statement here, have an else here. You can see if age is more than, or actually less than 18, that is a child, yeah? System out.println, you are a child. And then, oops. You are an adult. Okay, so let's try this now. Again, I'm giving a known value, which is 2000. It says you are an adult. Okay, so let's try 2005. All right. You are 18 years old. You are an adult. Not bad. Let's try 2006 now. 2006. You are 17 years old and you are a child. Correct. So all the scenarios are working. If you want, you can also go one step further and see whether they are entering any absurd values, like say 0 or minus, anything above 120, so those are called extreme numbers. So we can say, look, it's not reasonable. The reasonable age can be 1 to 120 in a normal circumstances. Anything beyond that, we say is abnormal. All right. Okay, so today we looked at example codes, starting off with a very simple Christmas tree, which we did manually. We looked at calculating circumference using basic information, actually manual information, which is this. So we gave everything manually, and then we extended that to calculate using a given value. So where's version 2? Okay, here's version 2. So you're asking the user to enter a radius. We'll calculate the value using the library, math library. Then we wrote a program to ask two numbers and calculate what is the largest. Then we also looked at positive, negative here. We're asking a number to detect whether it is a positive or a negative number. Then we have another one, odd even. We do a mod by 2. Here we detected the problem. We realized the if statement is only taking Boolean values. So we can't put n mod 2 here because it's not a Boolean coming out. We could. There is something called typecasting. I didn't do that. I would rather do it in a expanded way. So I got another variable called x. and I got the value here. If the balance is 0, then it's an even. If the balance is not 0, it's an odd number. Then our last one is where we calculate the age given the year of birth, and we also detected whether it is a child or an adult. Okay, so that's all really today. Oops, that's right. I will upload a sheet to